Chag Sameach. It's Shavuot starting this evening, and I want to welcome you again to the final blog now of the Rabbi's count through the Omer. I feel really pleased that I've got to the end of it. It was very much for me a personal offering to the Lord to do this count every day, not just to sit and mark it off with the blessing every evening, but to actually offer something like this publicly, to go through my thoughts and ideas and share them with people. But it was ultimately an offering to the Lord. And I want to thank you if you've been following through these last days on the count from Pesach now through to Shavuot. It's been a very interesting journey, certainly for me personally, and I hope for you too. My final thought today is obviously about Shavuot and what was happening at that momentous time all those thousands of years ago. They were encamped at the foot of Mount Sinai. Traditionally, of course, Shavuot is about the giving of the Torah, and there's probably some truth in this. If you work it out mathematically, it would seem quite likely that it was not just a harvest festival, but actually the Torah probably was given at that time as well. So what do we see? Well, of course, you know that the Hebrew text is quite interesting at this point about what we see and hear at that moment. But traditionally, what we do understand is that the thunderings that we could see were not just heard, they were seen. It wasn't the hearing of the thunder, we could see it. And how the rabbis, of course, always ask the question how on earth you could see thunder in this way. And the tradition has always been handed down that what we saw at that point was not just the thunder, but like tongues of fire coming down Mount Sinai and resting upon us as the Israelites at the bottom of the mountain. Why is it that we could see something, we could hear something? It wasn't thunder that we could hear that day. It was God giving the Torah in all the 70 language groups of mankind. This is fascinating, of course, for us in Jewish universal thinking. And we know there are other traditions about how the Lord offered the Torah to other nations until eventually holding it upside down, the mountain upside down upon us as Israel. And then we finally agree to accept his Torah, give or take the myth that goes around this. It nevertheless plays into our understanding that when the Lord gave the Torah, he was showing us, revealing to us his righteous standards, not just for us as Israel, but ultimately that all people would come and bow before him and acknowledge that only he is the one true righteous God, and his standards therefore must be righteous for all people and not just us as Jews. He doesn't have a different righteous standard for Gentiles who want to be saved and walk with him. Righteousness is righteousness. And this is why we see the tongues of fire in the languages of the world coming down, Torah being declared in this way of his revelation being given to all. We have to connect this, of course, with Acts 2, obviously, because in Acts 2 we see, this whole thing being revived again. It's being replayed in Acts 2. It really is the giving of the Torah ridiculous at this point. It's something coming down, and it's the reenactment of that original giving of the Torah, but this time in Messiah and through the Ruach, it's being empowered and renewed. And of course, Messianic Judaism is a renewing of what Judaism is and should and can be. We see this, of course, with all the multiple nations who were gathered there, the converts who'd come from multiple nations, and who were coming to worship Adonai at Shavuot at the festival time, and seeing and experiencing this miracle of the tongues of fire coming down yet again in the temple to reenact this original outplaying of the giving of the Torah at Sinai. How does this connect with everything? Well, it draws together really, when you think about it, that the promise to Abraham, the progenitor of our Jewish faith, was in you the nations shall be blessed. Not through you, in you, in you. That's where the place of blessing is, in Abraham. You've got to kind of get in to find and experience that blessing. And the Hebrew is very clear. It says that in you all the families of the earth. It's a very poor translation to say that in you all the nations of the earth will be blessed. That's a later nationalistic thinking. And we know that nation states are a relatively late development in human history. Most of it, really think back through history, what it talks about is who speaks what language. When the Lord split us up, it was language groups, not nations. And so the families of the earth really focused that concept upon what language you were speaking. And he says effectively that in all this, all the families of the earth, regardless of what language you speak, that God broke us up into originally, when mankind was fragmented away from that unity to a linguistic plurality that made up mankind. He says now to Abraham, in you all the families shall be blessed. That there is something about a unifying around Abraham and his teaching and his descendants, the Israelites, the Hebrews, the Jewish people, Israel, Judaism. There's something universal about this, which is a drawing together once more of mankind. He says, in you, Abraham, everyone shall be blessed. That is certainly true. It's what the Jewish universalists have always expected. And you know, I've been talking a lot about this. It's going to be the focus of my new book when it's finally published. It's going to be an important topic for the future for Messianic Judaism, I believe. It's the ingathering of the nations once more, that every knee will bow and every tongue confess that Adonai is God and Yeshua Mashiachenu is his salvation. The redemption not only of our people, but of any Gentile who will call upon the name of the Lord. This is why Shavuot speaks so powerfully to all of this. It's why this is a wonderful festival that we're beginning this evening. It speaks of this harvest and ingathering of those from the various nations, stroke families of the earth, to come and worship the God of Israel. Thank you for listening to me on this personal journey and odyssey. I intend to continue doing some video blogs, but not every day. There will be random blogs throughout the week if and when topics and themes come up, but I will try and continue to do the one on the Erev Shabbat each week if I can as well, picking up on a relevant Torah theme of the Torah portion that is coming for that Shabbat. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I hope it's been a blessing to you, and may the Lord continue to bless you. All the blogs are available on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. Thank you for being with me during this time. Bless you. Toda rabba, litrod, bye-bye, Shabbat Shalom, and Chag Sameach again. Bye-bye.